from the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to OpenLine. Glad you are with us tonight. Always happy to have our next guest and talk about this topic. We're talking about elder law, and our guest comes on every other month, and I always learn stuff when he comes on. Let's say you are caring for a loved one who is aging. Maybe you have an uncle, maybe you have a parent, whatever the case, maybe you yourself are. What can you do to prepare for those tough things that are coming your way when you're having to make those decisions? How do you prepare for that? What can you do? What puts you in a better position, whether it's for you or for a loved one? And it's always best on this show if people call in with their own situations and kind of let us know about them. And then our guest, Tim Takacs, who I'll bring in right now, there's Tim Takacs, joining us via Zoom from his home up there in Hendersonville, I believe.
Yes, it is.
Tim, thank you for being here.
Always glad to be with you.
And I like that bow tie.
Been doing this for 20-some years.
20 years, I think you're right. 20 years. And you used to come up here.
It never gets old.
Never does,
Never gets old.
I always learn stuff. So I like to start out by asking, define elder law. So when people call in, they kind of know what we're talking about, and you're best at defining it. Define elder law, what you do.
Basically what elder law is, or what it does, is that it is basically the only area of specialty law practice that focuses not on the particular type of law it is, such as taxes or corporations or business or whatever, but it actually is the only area of practice that focuses on the population that we serve, which is older people. So older people would be typically 65 and older. The various legal problems or issues that sometimes are, I don't say they're necessarily unique to older people, but they are primarily prevalent among older persons, such as people who are, as they age, many of them develop chronic illnesses like diabetes, heart disease, kidney disease, all those sorts of things, obviously Alzheimer's, as well as issues involving end-of-life decision-making, what kind of care that you want when you are terminally ill, those sorts of things, healthcare decision-making, durable powers of attorney, those are things, essentially, unlike traditional estate planning, which really mostly addresses or that's an area of practice that basically says, what happens to your assets when you're dead or after you're dead. But, basically what elder law attorneys do is focus on the legal issues, and not just the legal issues, but primarily the legal issues of the older client, the living older client.
I like that. I like that definition, and I always like to, as I kind of begin the show and ask you some questions to set the table for the discussion. Your typical client is whom? Is it someone coming in for a parent, or is it the older person, maybe an older couple themselves, that are asking questions about their situation?
It's always going to be, in our practice, it's always going to be the older person himself or herself. It's interesting you mentioned that, because I was speaking this morning, with the daughters of a client that we've had since 2018, it occurred to me that when the representation of their father began, and their father was my client, I don't recall ever meeting him. He actually, his daughters actually came in and said, our father has got some cognitive impairment. We need help with, making sure that he gets the care that he needs. that he gets the benefits that he may be entitled to, if he winds up in a nursing home or not. So we had a 4-year engagement. They hired, we were hired in 2018, and he passed away in July of last month.
Oh wow!
And like I mentioned, I'm not sure I ever mentioned or actually ever met him, but in our representations, somebody from the firm, is typically one of our elder care coordinators. In this case, it was Deborah, who is a licensed clinical social worker that's on staff that works with us. She's a non-lawyer healthcare professional, and so she had met him several times. She visited him when he was at one facility, that he was not doing very well, and the facility was, I guess we felt like, he was not getting the care that he needed. We effected a transfer to another facility here in Hendersonville.
Really? So you all do that kind of thing? You do that kind of thing?
Yes, we do.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So you really are doing all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's the other thing that scares me, frankly, is the cost. When you're talking about the cost associated with this, and you can help with that, right? Because the costs are so overwhelming. There's some things you can do to get prepared for it, ahead of it. Talk a little bit about the cost and what people should be thinking about and how you get ahead of some of this stuff.
Right, and in his case, for instance, and I'll just use him as an example. When we were retained, his daughters retained us on his behalf in 2018. We made sure his estate planning was in place. He has the appropriate powers of attorney. At that time, he had some capacity. So in other words, he could sign legal documents. So we had those, made sure we got those in place for him, healthcare powers of attorney. We discussed with his daughters, who were his powers of attorney, maybe doing some asset protection planning for him because he had money in a house. And so we transferred the house, or the money that he had into an irrevocable trust. And for those of you who out there that know what that means, it basically means, that if he ever needed Medicaid or TennCare benefits in a nursing home or at home, he would have to wait 5 years before he would be eligible for those benefits. That's like what's called the 5-year look back period. Well, our focus for him was to make sure that he was appropriately placed, that he got the care that he needed. There was money available to him that he had, and not only his income, but some other money that he had that was not in the trust that could be used to pay for his care. And so 4 years after he transferred those assets to the trust, he passed away. So he was never on Medicaid or TennCare. He was never on public benefits. And it was a good outcome. Who wants to go to a nursing home?
Right. Because there's
now if he needed nursing home care, let's say during that time, we would have started the clock and he would have paid privately, until the 5-year look back period had elapsed, and then at that point we would have considered, should we apply for TennCare benefits for him or not? So, sometimes the family will go, no, he's doing fine where he is. Let's keep him where he is. We don't want to go on TennCare. We're fine with that because maybe if he's located in a facility that does not accept TennCare, like for instance, this particular facility that he was in was a memory care facility, and they do not accept TennCare. And most assisted livings or memory care facilities don't accept TennCare. They're really not set up for it, and TennCare doesn't pay very much. But my guess would have been is that even after the 5-year look back period had elapsed, the daughters would have kept him. Since he was in a good place, they would have continued to pay privately for him.
Wow.
And that would have been just fine for them because they were doing fine. The daughters weren't interested in his money. They just wanted to make sure their father was taken care of. So it was, those are one of those cases where that's a good outcome.
And that's
good outcome for him and a good outcome for the daughters.
A lot of the people that first contact you, are they people like the daughters wanting to help a father? Is that who
Yes.
a lot of your clients are?
Or it might be a married couple where one spouse comes in and says, well, my husband has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, or he's somewhat advanced, and I need to do some planning for my husband or my spouse. So we're talking to, the spouse in that case, and talking about what their options are, for placement, or, what living arrangements they're in. Obviously, what legal documents that they have. Typically in a case like that, when we're representing a married couple, one of whom is, say, maybe, disabled or potentially may need long-term care, one of the issues or concerns that the spouse who is, the well spouse has is, well, what if I pass away before my husband? Who's going to take care of him? He's not able to manage the money. So what are the options that I have? So that the estate can be left for him, and it's done wisely, and so that money is available to him if he needs it. So that's the kind of planning that we'll do.
Wow, that would take planning.
If we can get people. So
Wow.
if we can get people early enough, like people maybe are watching and they're going, well, I'm doing fine, but my spouse is not doing fine. Maybe they can come in and we can have that conversation about what their options are. A lot of it is just trying to take away those worries that a spouse has had.
Very interesting. Okay,
whether you're
Well, I think that's fascinating. That kind of sets the table. That sets the table for our discussion. So we're going to go to the break, and I encourage people to call in. If you are caring for someone, or if you have questions about a personal situation of yours, it could be anything. It could be wills. It could be what we just discussed. Anything you want to talk about, give us a call. There's the number, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. We'll take a break. Be back right after this.